So welcome to this video about cover letters. Most people feel fairly comfortable if you ask them how they feel about their resume. They can easily understand about how it should look, what it should contain, and it can be easily adapted. Most of us don't feel so strongly about cover letters. Even I have struggled in my past with how to write a cover letter. So I'm going to teach you a method that is just 3 paragraphs. And again, it's something that you're going to have to transfer over time. So you're going to have to make a new cover letter for every job for which you apply. It's very important that you understand that because you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing that. So if you're on the job market, understand that that's essentially a part-time job, it's being on the job market. So we're going to be writing cover letters. So to get started, I just want to talk to you about sort of setting your intention. And I know, I do a lot of writing, and for me, I don't always like to start at the beginning. It's okay if you start with paragraph 2 and work your way back out. We'll talk about each paragraph individually, so you can do them in whatever order is comfortable for you. So to get started, I rarely get to say something is always true. So this is exciting for me. You always use block style. Always, no indents. In any business letter you ever write, should you have indents. Okay, so that's very easy. So the letterhead that you have on your resume, you use the exact same one. Okay, and I know you can't really see this text. It doesn't matter. This is for mainly for you to get the idea of how it should look. So everything is left justified, except for however you have your letterhead. And then you put the date, and then you're going to put the address of the employer. Now, every employer has a physical address. It may be a P.O. box, but they have one. So if you're applying for a startup company, you may have to dig for that a little bit. Are you going to mail this? Probably not. It's a relic of the days when we used to type things out and mail them, but it's still the way that we do things. Most of the time, you're not going to know to whom you're sending the letter. So instead of a name here, you're going to put hiring manager. And then you'll put the company name and then their address. And then you'll put dear hiring manager. So to me, that's a warmer greeting than to whom it may concern. That seems a little bit cold. And here in the Midwest, warmth is valued. So I would strongly recommend that you use dear hiring manager, and that way it's gender neutral as well. If you are unsure, many names these days are sort of gender neutral as well. So if you're unsure about the gender of the individual to whom you're sending this, then you'll just use, so if this was dear Taylor White, instead of David White, you would put dear Taylor White, because we don't know in terms of that. So, and there are only two titles. Of course, if doctor is appropriate, use that title, but only Mr. or Ms. in business. Basically, the Miss, Ms., and Mrs. is a relic of the days the teachers had to be unmarried. And so in business world, it doesn't actually matter. So those are the two that you would use. All right. So that gets us started. We've got our letterhead, we've got our date, the address to whom you're sending this, and then the greeting. Okay, so first paragraph, we're going to start with this introduction. This is a very simple one. We're going to start with, it's my pleasure to apply for whatever position. So if you're in any job besides sales, you just start out with a very pleasant opening like that. And then typically you'll tell the recruiter where you saw the job. That way they know how they're recruiting, where their candidates are actually coming from, to know if they're spending the money in the right places. So we've got that as your introduction. And then I want you to write a sentence or two. So for this class, we started out with the tell me about yourself statement. I want you to pick 2 sentences out of tell me about yourself. And write them here. So it's my pleasure to apply for this position. If it's got some sort of a numbering scheme, use it. It probably doesn't make sense to you, but I promise it does to the recruiter. And then I am an energetic extrovert who is passionate about teaching. That might be a sentence I would use to introduce myself. It's an introduction, right? So then I've done that. So you don't have to come up with that from scratch. You should have that information from your Tell Me About Yourself statement, which will be really helpful. So that's paragraph 1. Hey, we're a third way there. Not too bad. So next is going to be keywords and phrases. This is your paragraph 2. So what I'm doing here is I'm going back to the job posting. So I just Googled human resources jobs in Evansville just to get us started. And here's I know nothing about this job or this company. I just randomly drew it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take their job requirements and we're going to mix them in to our paragraph 2. So what I've done before is actually on more complex things, I actually type the keywords in and then I shape phrases around it. So I would go ahead and type in, the bachelor's, generalist experience, communication skills. So I'm looking at keywords here. Microsoft Office. Most of the time, this sort of implied that you all have Office skills, but go ahead and put that in because they specifically asked for it. We're going to use the word professionalism, organization, ERP software. So hopefully you've used some ERP. If you haven't used ERP, you would say something to the effect of, while I've not used an employer's ERP system, I've learned about them in the classroom setting and I'm eager to transfer that knowledge to the workplace. So we still used the keyword, but we were honest about it, okay? So that's essentially how I would shape paragraph 2. It needs to flow and it needs to make sense. So if you're going to just dump the keywords in, really take some time to go back through and connect the ideas. If you're having difficulty with that, I'm happy to help you. The other thing you can do is while you're here at USI is to use the Writing Center. You have the information, but they can help you smooth it out so it reads nicely. It's very important that it reads nicely, okay? So that's essentially paragraph 2, done, okay? And then your closing is going to be basically something, again, very short, sweet, basic. Now you want to say something nice about the company. So what I would have done in this case is I would have gone back and looked up Fisher Dynamics. And here's something that I want you to get in the habit of doing. I'm going to look at mission and values. And I'm going to read this statement, okay? Always deliver on customer needs and wants with breakthrough engineering concepts. We go a step beyond and surprise customers with things they never expected. Okay, so there's this sort of continuum of super cheesy and a bit annoying and, being, right in the zone with the employer. So you have to find what is sort of true to you, realistic to you. So we want to make sure to use some aspects of this statement in our closing. So to say something to the effect of, in closing, while reviewing your company's website, I was excited to see that your company's committed to going a step beyond and giving customers more than they expected. That's also my personal philosophy when it comes to customer service. I look forward to hearing from you, and this is the best way to contact me. So make sure that you have, if you're looking for a job, you need to have your voicemail set up. It needs to be an appropriate message, and you need to have some time during the day where you can be contacted. I remember one time I had a candidate who said, that he or she was available from like 5 to 9 p.m. Well, I'm not available during that time, or so I'm certainly not going to call a candidate from my cell phone. So make sure that you make yourself available during that time. And if you put an email on there, you must check it, because they might just send you an email. Some employers are even just texting these days. So don't be surprised on how you get contacted, but that's essential of how you want to do the cover letter in terms of content. Now, in closing, we just want to do a sincerely, and then enter 4 times, and then type out your name. Okay, so you don't put your contact information here again because it's already up at the top, and that's essentially how you put a good cover letter together. So as you can see, that paragraph 2 is going to be completely different for every job. All right. So make sure that you, the other thing that you want to make sure that you do is review it before you send it. You don't want another company's name on it. Over my years of recruiting, I've received, other companies' names, people who will send it to, Mr. Hiring Manager, because it would have to be a male, of course, or if it, or even just putting Ms. Hiring Manager, and then there's a male hiring manager. That's just a faux pas that you don't need to make. So make sure there are no typos, no spelling errors, no grammar errors, and that the name is correct. It will pay off for you having a really great cover letter. This is essentially how it goes in terms of how many recruiters do the workflow. So first cut is resume. And I've already showed you how it's, it's the snap of a finger, looking at one resume, going to the next resume, going to the next resume. So that's first cut. So if I have 200 candidates, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to review them all that quickly. And then I'm going to say pick 5. And then I'm going to read their whole resume and review all that. And from that, I might pick 3. And for those 3, I'm also going to review their cover letter. And then I've got the whole package where I've got it down to candidates that I want to see. So your resume, in the way that I do things, and I'm not sure all recruiters, every recruiter has a different method, but your resume should be the most important thing to you, but the cover letter needs to be, okay, so this is, I've gotten into the top 5, how am I gonna get an interview? This is how. So if you are lazy on the cover letter, you've probably blown your shot to be seen. Okay, so this is just has you on paper first. You want them to want to see you, and basically also with the keywords, you're gonna get through the their data system. They're gonna pull your cover letter because you use the keywords in their job posting. That's essentially how you sort of comply with the software, but you must be honest. Lying on a cover letter, resume, you get the job, you get fired. So don't do that. Don't do that, be honest. While we're talking about this, I want to cover references really quickly. So you should always be cultivating references. So right now, if all of your references are professors, you definitely need to be working on getting some work references as well. So cultivate references, work with people, volunteer places, and all of your references should be professional references, people who know your work style and your work ethic. So it shouldn't be your pastor unless you work in the church. I have called people's grandmas. If you're not right with your grandma, you have bigger problems. I've had some really strange things. So make sure that the reference knows that you're on the job market and that they're okay being your reference. I was not asked from a previous intern many years ago who did not do well in the internship, and when I was called for a reference, I told the truth. I was nice about it, but I told the truth. And that person had never asked me if I'd be a reference. So they just put me down automatically, and it wasn't helpful to them. So make sure that your references are happy to be your reference, and you're always looking for new references. So that should be changing over time. Your reference list today should not be the same in 10 years. Okay, so references, you have 3. They're on their own page, and you use your letterhead, and then you need their title and their name, their email address, and their cell phone number. If it's not self-explanatory how you're connected with them, then you might want to put supervisor at this charity thing, or if it's not on your resume, that you volunteered at this place or you worked at this place, make sure that you explain that. As it should be people that have knowledge about your work experience and your work habits. So that's essentially what you need to know about cover letters and references. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to contact me. So thanks for watching.